So let's go back to politics now, because Hillary Clinton, breaking her long silence on the Keystone Pipeline, she's finally announcing what she thinks about it, and guess what? It's a no-go for her, after saying for years it wouldn't be appropriate for her to express an opinion. Well, now that she's losing some of her progressive support base to Bernie Sanders, here's what she has to say now.
I think it is imperative that we look at the Keystone Pipeline as what I believe it is, a distraction from the important work we have to do to combat climate change, and unfortunately, from my perspective, one that interferes with our ability to move forward to deal with all the other issues. Therefore, I oppose it.
Wow, she finally got to it at the end. Monica Crowley, online opinion editor for the Washington Times and a Fox News contributor. Not only did she kind of just throw it in there at the end of the statement, Monica, but there's a lot going on in the world. The Pope's here in the United States. We're talking about a lot of other stuff. Was she trying to maybe hide this headline or not?
Well, I think this was a purely political calculation. As you point out, she's taking a look at the latest polls. She sees that her support is hemorrhaging in large part to Bernie Sanders, but also to a man who is not declared yet, Joe Biden. She's essentially in a three-way race with Bernie Sanders and a guy who's not even in the race yet. She is starting to panic. This decision and this announcement looks desperate. I think it's not going to fool anybody. I mean, remember, Gretchen, when she was Secretary of State, her own State Department approved the Keystone Pipeline as environmentally sound. So now I think what she's doing is trying to appeal to the far left, to the environmentalists, by opposing this. But remember, she's now made instant enemies on the other side of the left, which is the unions. The unions realize that there are a lot of good-paying jobs associated with the building of this pipeline, and now they're opposed to her because she opposed the Keystone Pipeline.
But she doesn't necessarily feel the political pressure from Americans because gas prices have gone down. So from that point of view, it's also, good timing for her to do this. Now, let's move on to something that may not be good timing at all, which is the email problem. And the FBI reportedly recovering now some of Clinton's emails from her private server. And now the State Department seems to be at odds with Clinton's version of how this all got started.
What's interesting to me, Gretchen, is the timing. So on Monday, we had a new poll. I think it was a CNN poll that showed Mrs. Clinton recovering a little bit, bouncing back. And then the very next day, yesterday, we get these new damaging leaks about the investigation, about the private email and private server. I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence.
Why?
Because I think that so much of this is political. I think that President Obama, who is the only one driving the bus on the Democratic side, he controls the White House, he controls the Democratic Party, and he controls this nominating process. The only person who matters here is him and what he wants, and he does not want her to be the nominee. So this investigation is ongoing. I'm not saying President Obama has anything to do with it at this point. It's now so far advanced that I don't think anybody has control of it. But if this report is true and that they've been able to recover at least some of her private emails, she ought to be very worried, because the question now is not if she had classified / top secret information on that private server, but now the question is, why did she have it and in what form? That's what they're investigating now, and if that's true, she's really in deep trouble.
And it was supposedly wiped clean, but not so much, according to the FBI. Monica, thank you.
Pleasure.